This king has a sick obsession, that is to raise a flea as his pet. Under the care of the king, the little flea has grown to the size of a pig. A few days ago, the king was enjoying the performance of the princess. Suddenly, a flea jumped on his hand. The king wanted to swat it, but the flea seemed to be able to read the king's mind, and it was able to jump from the left hand to the right hand according to the king's order. The clever little flea was much more interesting than the princess's performance. After the performance, the king couldn't wait to leave the hall, while the princess felt ignored. The king took the flea back to his room, then cut his finger and let the flea drink his blood. Then he brought a gold box with a soft cushion and let the flea sleep in it. He picked up a magnifying glass and watched the flea with great interest. He was very happy, and he had been completely fascinated by the flea. A few days later, the flea has grown to the size of a peanut. To make the flea happy, the king stayed in the house all day and made various toys for the flea to play with. The king cared more about the flea than even his daughter. The princess has reached the age of marriage, so she is very eager for love. At dinner, the princess expressed her desire to get married, hoping that the king would find her a perfect husband.
What sort of husband would you like?
I'd like my husband to be courageous and strong and handsome.
The king agreed without hesitation, but he didn't want his baby daughter to leave him so soon. Then the princess said that the steak was not cooked enough, which made the king think of his flea. So he took the steak and went back to his room, gently calling out to the flea. After only a few weeks, the flea is already 100 times as big as before. The king feeds it with the steak, and then gently strokes its back, hoping it will grow stronger. But one night, the king calls the doctor urgently, and it turns out that the flea is sick. The doctor is shocked when he enters the room. He has never seen a flea so big. After some examination, the doctor tells the king that the flea has cancer. The king is heartbroken at the loss of the flea, and he orders the doctor to keep this a secret. The next morning, the king tells the princess that he has already thought of a way to choose a husband for her. A few days later, the king hangs up the skin of a special beast. He claims that whoever can guess what beast the skin is peeled from will be able to marry the princess. The first man is a farmer. He rubs it for a while and says it is a pig's skin. The second man is a businessman. He observes it very carefully, and he says it is tree bark. They are all wrong, which makes the king very pleased, because he simply does not want his daughter to leave him. And the princess is relieved, since none of these men is her type. Just then, a handsome knight walks in. The princess falls in love with him at first sight. She tells the king to pause the test, and then eagerly asks what kind of animal skin it is. The king proudly tells the princess the answer. The princess is desperate after hearing it. It turns out to be the skin of that flea. There is no way anyone could have guessed it. Not surprisingly, the knight also gives a wrong answer. He thinks it's a giant manatee. Suddenly, an ugly-looking ogre tries to participate in the test. To show his fairness, the king waves for ogre to come in. He doesn't believe this ogre can give the correct answer. The ogre comes near to the skin, smells it carefully, then immediately gives the right answer.
Flea.
The king is dumbfounded, and the princess is so scared that she runs out of the hall in tears. She runs to the top of the castle, threatening the king with her life. But the king says that as a king he must keep his words. Under his angry rebuke, the princess obeyed. Then the princess walks out of the castle in tears, and she meets the long-awaited ogre. He grabs the princess by the arm, then walks in the direction of his home. After walking for several hours, the delicate princess falls to the ground because of physical exhaustion. Surprisingly, the ogre shows his gentle side. He carries the princess to continue the journey. The ogre climbs up the cliff with the princess. They arrive at a cave located at the top of the mountain, and this is the ogre's home. Looking at the animal carcasses all over the ground, the princess is frightened. She wants to escape, but she knows she is not capable of that. All she can do is sit on the edge of the cliff and stare in the direction of the castle. Time flies and the princess begins to lose hope for her future. On this day, the ogre is out hunting, and the princess is surprised to find that there is a woman gathering herbs on the other side of the cliff. The princess sincerely asks her for help, and the woman agrees to save her. But she can't do it alone. She needs the help of her husband and sons. So the two agree to meet here the next day, and the princess is so excited that she stays awake all night. Early the next morning, the princess sneaks outside the cave when the ogre is not paying attention, and she sees the woman's son. It turns out that this is a circus family, and this young man is a tightrope walker. He carries the princess on his shoulder, walks on the pre-established rope, and slowly moves toward the other side of the cliff. But that is when the ogre smells something unusual. Just as they are about to reach the other side, the ogre spots them. The strong ogre moves along the rope. Seeing that the ogre is about to catch up with them, they cut the rope in time. The princess is finally free, and then the circus family takes him in the direction of the castle. Suddenly, the ogre breaks into the carriage. He is still alive. The circus family fights with the ogre in the carriage, but they are no match for the strong ogre. Soon 3 of them are sent to Jesus by the ogre. The tightrope walker escapes with his mother and the princess, but is soon caught up by the ogre. They hide behind a large rock. The tightrope walker tries to kill the ogre with fire, but it doesn't work. The enraged ogre strangles him with his hands, and the woman tries to save her son, but ends up dying along with him. The frightened princess continues to run forward, but soon she realizes that this is a dead end. She can only wait for death. The ogre catches up and wants to strangle the princess, but he can't do it. He has fallen in love with her. So the princess pretends to submit to him. However, just when ogre is about to carry her back to the cave. In the castle, the king is very sick after the loss of the flea and the princess. Suddenly, he is told that the princess has returned. The king rushes out in his pajamas. Looking at the princess in front of him, he feels very guilty. To make up for the princess, the king passes the throne to her the next day, and all the nobles in the country come to celebrate with her. Obviously, the princess already has the courage and wisdom to lead the country, but she has lost her innocence forever. I am Movie Ape, thanks for watching.